salivas or urines or bloods or something like that. So we can measure different chemicals in your body. So we're looking at cortisol, a stress hormone. We can look at cytokines, which are a measurement of inflammation in the body. We can look at a chemical called MDA that is it's an aldehyde that your cells will produce if they're under oxidation, if there's too many free radicals around, not enough antioxidants. So we can measure that kind of stuff. We can show people, we can show them their, what their biochemistry looks like. And the thing that's interesting about it is that we can show changes in those biochemical parameters and link it directly to how you're feeling. So we can show your oxidation is high, your energy is low. Your cortisol is high, your depression is high. We can show those kinds of things, linking the biochemistry to the psychology. And that's kind of cool because it lets people know, oh, there's a reason in my body for why I feel the way I feel. If you don't get that biochemistry balanced, you're always going to feel terrible, right? That's one bad aspect to it. The other bad aspect to it is that if you don't get that biochemistry balanced, your tissues are always going to be breaking down faster than they're building up. It's something that we call being catabolic. Catabolic is breaking down, and anabolic is building up. Goodness gracious, to be out of balance and feeling bad. But over time, that being out of balance causes tissue breakdown in the body. Every single tissue breaks down faster in response to being under stress, including this one. These are brain cells. These are neurons. And I show this. I like to show pictures of this because it's very visual. Like if I showed you a picture of artery linings or muscle cells or something like that, you could show a difference, but it's not as visually appealing. You could show, here's a healthy one, here's a broken down one, and there's differences. But this, I think the difference is a lot more visual, where this is a healthy neuron, a healthy brain cell, low stress. And so when I say stress, the stress could refer to stress, the kind of stress that we live, and high cortisol, stress hormones. It could be the stress of too many free radicals. It could be the stress of too many inflammatory. It could be the stress of a very high blood sugar. But this is a low stress situation. This is very healthy. And what you can see the difference between these two, right? You can see that they look different, right? This one is bigger. It's longer. It has more projections, and the projections just looks like a healthier tissue. This one actually looks physically shrunken. It looks sick, doesn't it? It looks thinner. It has fewer projections. Some of the projections are actually broken. So this is an example of what we would call a structural impairment in this particular tissue. So over time, in this particular tissue in a brain cell, this would start not working well because it's out of balance. Blood sugar's high, cortisol's high, inflammation's high, that kind of stuff. It wouldn't be able to lay down as many memories. It wouldn't fire as fast as it normally would. In this situation, it would be great. Good creativity, good memory, good problem solving. Here, it would start to break down. So you have a functional impairment where it just doesn't work. Where did I put my keys? Oh, I forgot the appointment, that kind of stuff. But then you eventually get this functional or structural impairment where the tissue starts to physically get smaller, physically break down. It becomes catabolic, so it's breaking down faster than the body can repair it. Okay? That should be scary to people. That if you're out of balance, yeah, I'm fatigued, but big deal, I'm just a little bit tired. No, it is a big deal, because that's a signal that being fatigued or being depressed or being unmotivated, that's a signal that there's something going on in the rest of your body that's causing this physical damage. That eventually will lead to some sort of health problem, but that might be 5 years or 10 years or 20 years from now. And then you look back and you go, oh, now I know why I'm sick, because of what happened to me 10 years ago. And I didn't do anything about it then, so I'll do something about it now, right? That's fine, I guess, that you're finally making that decision, but I would rather have you make that decision way before it gets to this point, okay? So that was a long preamble into answering your question about visceral fat, because that happens in every single tissue in the body except your belly fat region, right? Every single tissue breaks down faster except your belly fat, which builds up faster. same sort of scenario. This is a low stress situation. Low blood sugar, or normal blood sugar, normal cortisol, normal oxidation, normal inflammation. All of that biochemistry is in a good place in this person. In this person, it's all out of whack. So the visceral fat, the intra-abdominal fat, has been colored yellow, so you can pick it out a lot easier. So this person is going to have high cortisol, high blood sugar, high inflammation, high oxidation. And the problem with that is that having any of those encourages our body to store fat in your belly region. But then once it's there, this tissue actually, it kind of acts like a tumor in the body, because this fat will now create its own inflammatory chemicals that will interfere with blood sugar control throughout the body. It'll create its own cortisol that'll go out to the bloodstream, go to the brain, tell you that you're hungry. So it's once it's there, it's really hard to get rid of unless you short circuit that biochemistry, unless you control your blood sugar, unless you control your stress, unless you control your oxidation with antioxidants. Does that make sense to everybody? So a lot of the work that I've done over the last 10 years is to look specifically at this tissue and say, okay, how can we make diet and exercise better, right? So, as I said before, I want you to get your sleep, I want you to eat a good diet, I want you to supplement appropriately, I want you to do your exercise, but how on top of that, what you're trying to do as well as you can, how can we add something on top of that, what I call biochemical control or biochemical balance, to help the diet and exercise work better? That's what these Monavie products are. That's what the juice is on the oxidation side. That's what the shake is on the blood sugar control side. We have this VSET product that we have in pre-launch in the United States right now. That'll eventually be coming to other markets around the world. That's our attempt on the stress control side, on the cortisol control side. So it's about trying to just tweak these little areas so that what you're trying to do with your diet and exercise and lifestyle patterns works even better. Okay? So, yeah.
I've heard that to get rid of visceral fat is through fasting. Is that true?
No, so
because it conflicts with what
it totally
yes.
So if you fast, then you're going to throw your blood sugar control out of whack. You know, so fasting isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's lots of reasons to fast. I fast once a month just because I feel like it goes against that blood sugar control idea, right? So I should be eating every 3 hours during that day, and I'm eating 0.
Yeah.
Right? And I just I do that because I do that for a lot of reasons, right? There's some psychological reasons. There's religious reasons why people fast. There's all sorts of reasons why people fast. But you're not going to try to do that on a regular basis, right? And if you do, it's putting yourself in that starvation mode, where your body looks and says, all right, there's no calories coming in. What's the next best source of calories for me? The easiest thing for you to do is break down your muscle tissue to get those amino acids to convert to blood sugar. And then your body's going to be fine for a little while. But your body does that thinking to itself, and this is only going to be a short-term thing, right? Maybe it happens for a couple hours of the day. I'll do that, but as soon as this dummy eats, then I'll put that back. Then I'll rebuild that muscle. But if you're doing that on a regular basis, you get into that catabolic situation where you're breaking down more than you're building up. And then when you finally eat, you're going to be in a situation where you're more likely to store it here instead of store it there. Okay? So yeah, it's not the way to do it. The way to get rid of this specifically is to control those 4 areas of biochemistry. Get your free radicals under control. And the way to do that is with antioxidants. Get your inflammation under control with healthy fats. In fact, the juices, I'll talk about this later. People will sometimes, when they empty out a glass of our Monavie juice, they'll see that film on the inside. They'll be like, "Ew, what's that? Yuck!" And I say, "No, yum. That is the healthy fat. It's oleic acid. It's the same fat that you find in olive oil. Very, very anti-inflammatory, very heart protective, very good for your blood vessels." So with the juices, we're controlling the antioxidant piece and the inflammation piece. You control the blood sugar piece with the shakes. And the cortisol piece is something that we're not controlling directly right now with any of our products, that stress hormone piece. But the fact that you're controlling those other ones helps that one, right? Very good research. Just in the last couple of years has shown if you control your oxidation and your inflammation and your blood sugar, you're able to in a stressful situation, you mount an appropriate stress response, not an overactive stress response. That seems to be one of the big problems, is that, sitting in traffic, somebody who has poor nutrition in their body mounts a huge stress response, and they make way too much cortisol, which damages tissues and increases appetite and stimulates belly fat. But if you have good fatty acids and good anti-inflammatory, good free radical control, your stress response goes, but it only goes enough. It doesn't become overblown.
Oh, okay.
And so there's lots of ways that your existing products are helping
Stress
control that
management,
at the same time. Okay.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
I have a question. How do you overcome client do have underweight?
Say that again?
Underweight.
Gain weight.
Underweight.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
I've been trying to search in the net.
Yeah.
Cannot find any before and after.
Yeah.
But a lot of big size fats.
Yeah.
Overweight, yes.
Yes.
But underweight, I hardly find anywhere
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
Is that
Well, it is hard to find that information. So how do I answer this? It's a really easy answer, actually.
I mentioned this client of mine who has been suffering underweight.
Yeah.
You can see the bones of it.
Yeah.
You can see the very skin.
Yeah.
It's age about 40 old plus.
Yeah.
And the BMI says to be less than 13.5%.
Okay.
That's what I can see from BMI. So she asked me, Frank, I heard the product has size got lose and gain weight. She
Yeah.
was so impressed with that. She said,
Yeah.
you are the only product in the world that has this logo
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. So when I work with elite level athletes, right, I'll work with athletes a lot of times who need to gain weight, and I work with athletes a lot who need to lose weight, depending on what their sport is. The recommendations to lose weight and gain weight are exactly the same. Exactly the same.
How would that?
They are the same, because what we're trying to do. Let me put that other slide that I had before. Of nutrient partitioning, right? Trying to maintain muscle mass while you're losing fat, right? That's where most people are. That's where 99% of the people that we're going to encounter are going to want to lose fat and maintain their muscle mass. The people you're referring to actually want to gain everything. They want to gain more body weight, but what they really want is they want more muscle mass, not more body fat, right? That isn't really what they're going for. They want to get themselves into an anabolic situation. And the way to do that is the exact same way of taking balanced macronutrients, so proteins, carbohydrates, fats, fibers, in the proper ratio and delivering them throughout the day. So for someone who wants to gain weight versus lose weight, the only thing you would change, you'd have them eat the same exact way. You'd have them use the shakes, you'd have them do the hand thing that I showed you before. The difference between a weight loss person and a weight gain person is that the weight gain person wants to do it more frequently. So depending on how many calories their body needs, they're going to want to go maybe one meal to the higher side, to the plus side, whereas somebody who wants to lose weight might go one meal to the low side. So the only difference between those two people is their calorie level. One person is taking more calories in the same spaced way throughout the day. The other person is taking fewer calories in the same spaced way throughout the day. So we'll educate people at the Olympic training centers exactly the same. We'll say, okay, you wrestler who needs to get down to a lower body weight, eat this way, and you who's a good example of sometimes rowers, heavyweight rowers want to be bigger and stronger. So we'll encourage them to eat the same strategy, but eat more times throughout the day. And the only difference is their caloric intake. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a little sense. But
Just a little?
it's not so easy to put into a client position. Now my client say, I'm 13.5. What happened to my 10%? I'm supposed to be a normal person.
Yeah.
It just Frank tells me.
Yeah.
So he says that, should I take your this before meal or after meal that to get faster? She need to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it before or after a meal. I take it between meals, right? So if she's taking it, if she took it before or after her meal, you know, then it's just like having a bigger meal. You know, I would rather have her space it so that she's using it as a between meal snack. You know, so she's eating her 3 meals,
Okay.
right? And then this might be a snack between breakfast and lunch, and a snack between lunch and dinner. It might be a snack right before she goes to bed. Right? So she's in a unique situation in that she's not like most people who want to lose weight.
Yeah.
She wants to gain weight. And so to do that, she's going to have to eat in this spaced way, you know, to do the same thing, to get this, you know, shuffling it towards her muscle mass. So she's more anabolic versus catabolic right now.
So on top of that, what is the findings behind that? She's been in this current situation of 13.5% in the bottom of calorie.
So,
the findings. Why is she being due to what?
Actually, nutrition is to balance all those macronutrients.
So at our point here, we put this put it as a snacks in between. Do you recommend? Do you have any case study currently in the country that you are having? Do you have any case study like 13.5%? It would be very useful for us to put as a reference.
Yeah, well,
another thing is that
any of these,
if you're looking at the Europe country and the ASEAN country,
yeah,
they might be have a slight difference, right? In eating habit, right?
no, actually, the metabolism's the same, right? So you know, you can look at different cultures and say, you know, all right, Asians on average are going to be lower body weight, lower body fat as their sort of average baseline compared to like an American population, right? But from that baseline, the physiology is the same. You know, so blood sugar control is the same, stress hormones are the same, everything's the same, depending on where you're starting from. Okay, but even within that population, you know, there's fat and thin Americans, there's fat and thin Chinese, there's a big range in any of those ethnic groups. So I wouldn't say that there are big differences between them, except for maybe where they're starting baseline-wise. Okay, but to your point about where you can get more information, all of these books have their own websites where all the text is free online. So if somebody wants to read it on a website, it's all there. Cortisol connection diet is probably the most appropriate for what we're talking about right here.